for the Sixers, everybody in the starting five had double figures, but that bench continues to plague them, and they just didn't get enough from their starters because they have to rely on them so much. Time now to bring in CBS Sports NBA analyst Noah Bono. And Noah, I seen Noah turn into Jalen Brunson there for a second. But Noah, when you think about how the Sixers, they had different points in time where they had a chance, to get closer, right? It was 4 points, 3 points. But in the end, the Knicks are able to smother them defensively. They get out in transition. What impressed you the most about how the Knicks took every punch the Sixers gave them and responded like bosses?
It impressed me top to bottom that they were able to do this without OG Anunoby, who has, to me, been one of, if not their best players so far in this postseason. He definitely was in the first 6 games versus Atlanta. So the fact that they were able to get this done without him, the fact that they were able to work around Karl Anthony Towns' foul trouble tonight, especially in that third quarter when Philly started going into the hack of Mitchell Robinson, the old hack of Shaq. Sorry, I said that fast. But they were putting Mitch on the line, and Mitch did a good job knocking a few down. And Philly they were flirting with this 9-point deficit to a 5-point deficit. And then with 8 minutes and 54 seconds left in the fourth quarter, Quentin Grimes hits a 3-pointer that makes it a 4-point game. It's 88-84. And from that point on, the next 4 minutes, New York went on a 13-2 run and blew the game open in the middle of the fourth quarter. And a lot of it had to do with just them staying together, the old cliche, and they just worked together so well. But really, Philly just had nothing working for them offensively. I actually think it was more of the inability to get stops defensively for Philly. And then offensively, Paul George didn't have any points past the first quarter. He was 0 for 9 for the remainder of the game. And then Tyrese Maxey, I thought, could have changed the complexion of the game had he taken advantage of some of his different spots where he was getting the ball. There was one in transition early in the fourth quarter. He could have ripped a quick between and drove it to the right side of the floor. There was no help on the baseline. And instead, he opted to wait for the defense to get set and then hit the hole. And he misses a layup. And I just think he was a little hesitant. And really all those things kind of compounded and played in the favor of the New York Knicks. And Jalen Brunson was phenomenal again.
Not a surprise, right? Not a surprise to us. Were you surprised, though, about the production from Landry Shamet, right, coming off the bench, scoring 15 points? We were talking off air about how the Knicks, they have much more depth. And on this night, the Sixers, they just didn't have any production from their bench.
No, I wasn't surprised that he was able to help. I think that there's been a lot of moments where you wonder on the Knicks bench, is their depth going to come from Jose Alvarado, Landry Shamet, Jordan Clarkson? And tonight it was Shamet's night. And honestly, the most concerning thing, now that this series is 0-3, and you hate that you didn't win this game if you're Philly, is the Philadelphia bench was outscored at the 11-minute mark of the fourth quarter. It was 25-0 in favor of the Knicks bench to Philly's bench. That just can't happen. Quentin Grimes hit 2 threes early in the fourth quarter to kind of break the ice and get himself going. I thought he had a nice game, especially early in the fourth quarter and late third quarter before it was blown open. But you can't have your bench outplay you in a game that you're at home. Role players are supposed to play better at home, and Philly's guys just did not do that tonight. And obviously Nick Nurse generally is going to lean heavily on his starters playing heavy starter minutes, but Embiid didn't check back into the game until they were down double digits at the 6-minute mark. Like, he wants to play his starters for the 76ers. So, you can make the counter argument that, of course, Philly's bench didn't have the success the Knicks bench had. But at the end of the day, like, if Maxey is struggling the way he was, and honestly, he wasn't struggling. Struggling is the wrong word. He just wasn't as aggressive. Paul George was struggling. If those two guys don't have it, and VJ Edgecombe is struggling, and then your bench isn't producing, yeah, you're in trouble. And so the Knicks just outplayed them on their own home floor, and it was in a game that you can't be outplayed because now you're down 0-3, and nobody comes back from 3-0. This was a death sentence tonight, unfortunately.
So you say it's a death sentence, how do the Sixers at least salvage maybe one game if they're not going to win this series?
Well, I don't think they're going to mail it in. I think that they're definitely going to come out and win game 4 and put up a good fight. And make this a 5-game series at the minimum. Who knows? Maybe they go back and win games 4 and 5, and all of a sudden we have a game 6, and we're overreacting. Like, oh, the Knicks going to be the one to blow the 3-0 lead. I don't know if we'll get to that point. The reason I'm optimistic is because I thought that this series was going to go a minimum of 6 games, especially when you look back at the series 2 years ago when Isaiah Hartenstein was on the team and Dante DiVincenzo was on the team. There was no Cat, there was no Mikal Bridges. That series went 6 games. It was highly competitive. We had some of the best games of the 2020s in that series alone, games 2 and game 5 from that series in 2024. So I thought this series was just going to be more competitive, especially how Philly played against Boston coming back from 3-1. But I was wrong. Excuse me, I was wrong. And the New York Knicks just simply have outplayed them thus far. It hurt that they couldn't get game 2 in the Garden with no Embiid. You know, that was their biggest chance there. Because when your back's against the wall, down 0-2, most teams do come out when the series is a little bit more evenly matched and they win this game. But Philly really just looked like they kind of ran out of steam and ran out of gas from how we saw them playing in games 5, 6, and 7 in that Boston series. And that's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate from a fan's perspective that this is a 3-0 deficit for the Philadelphia 76ers, and we don't have a more highly competitive series between these two teams in the tri-state area. I'm bummed as someone from New Jersey. I'm just gonna be honest.
Hey, man, I ain't mad at that. You know, we love the transparency here on CBS Sports HQ. You know who's not bummed? Mikal Bridges. Okay, he goes for 23 points in this game, 8 of 14 shooting. Noah, how pivotal is he going to be if the Knicks want a chance, right, to win the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Let's say, you know, they beat the Sixers and then move on.
Well, you look at the Knicks roster, and it's Jalen Brunson, it's Karl Anthony Towns, and then who's going to be that third option or that third scorer on this team? And normally, thus far, it's been OG Anunoby, and with him out, this is exactly what Mikal Bridges needed to do. This is exactly the way he needed to, quote-unquote, step up. You know, I know how everybody likes to throw that one out there. Of course, guys got to step up. It's the postseason, and he really struggled against the Atlanta Hawks. But this is the role that you have to fulfill when you're traded for 5 draft picks to come on to the New York Knicks and join the Nova Knicks. Like, this is what they need out of Mikal Bridges. He had some moments last year when they took down Boston where he was really, really pivotal. And tonight was a nice coming out party. I thought he played well in Game 6 versus the Hawks to close that series out, and he's slowly been kind of coming along. But if he's coming along like this and OG can get healthy, because the Knicks are probably going to win in 5, maybe get the sweep. They're going to have some time off for Anunoby to get healthy. And if you can bring both him back healthy and Mikal Bridges humming like this offensively the way he was tonight, all of a sudden you're looking at 4 lethal options on the New York Knicks offense, and they're going to be even scarier than what they've been going back to Game 4 in Atlanta from where they are now. Like, they've been one of, if not the best team in this postseason so far, especially when you factor in how kind of shaky the Oklahoma City Thunder have looked with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's play. You know, them not looking like their regular season form, even though they've blown the Lakers out. But the Knicks really have looked like one of, if not the best team this postseason.
Right, you talked about overreactions earlier, right? Everybody was overreacting when they were down 2-1 against the Hawks. Ever since then, they have been locked in. So now the Knicks are 1 game away from getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals for a 2nd straight year. Noah Bono, always appreciate the insight, brother. Take care.
You too, man. Thanks.
So the Knicks have tied their longest win streak in playoff history. Remember, they did it in 1999. That was the year they went to the finals.